Alright, on to the last problem here in 7.6. In fact, good news, yay. A little celebration here. This is the last problem in all of chapter number 7. We're going to skip over altogether 7.7. So this problem will be, in fact, the finishing touch on a long, difficult chapter. So problem number 20, two premises to work with. And we're after not F, no horseshoe present, so it seems to be an ideal case for indirect proof. And I'll start right there. Let's start in the obvious place. We're after not F, assume the negation of that, which would be F. Assumption, indirect proof. And already it proves to be useful. We can immediately now do 1 and 3 modus ponens, and we get C, horseshoe G. So that's the result of, again, 1 and 3 modus ponens. Off to the races, but now we seem to be at an impasse. What the heck can we do with line number 4? And our options at this point seem to be rather limited. The answer quickly, not a whole heck of a lot. Remember here, we've started indirect proof, so what we're after is a contradiction. And how, out of line number 4, are we possibly going to get a contradiction? Well, by examining the other line that's given to us, line number 2, you'll see that there is, in fact, a built-in contradiction. The built-in contradiction occurs at the tail end, again, of line number 2. We've got the K and not K. So we know, quite likely, we're going to have to break up line number 2 to get the very end of the problem out, to get that K and not K. There's our contradiction. We could discharge, and that would get us our not F. But of course, how the heck are we going to do that? To even begin to break up line number 2, which is pretty nasty by itself, it seems to be the case that we're going to need a G. If we could get G, we could do a modus ponens and make some progress to getting that contradiction out. We've got a G now in line number 4. It's the consequent of a horseshoe statement, but to get that G by itself, so we could do modus ponens with line number 2, we need first the antecedent to line number 4, which we don't have, and there doesn't seem to be any immediate hope of getting it. So we're completely stuck at this point now that we've gotten to line number 4. And in these problems, when you come to an impasse, indent again and take on an additional assumption. So indent for line number 5, and we're going to assume something else. Do we want to now conduct indirect proof or conditional proof? What would be beneficial? Well, we want a G, and that'll allow us again to do modus ponens with line number 2. But to get that G, we need C horseshoe C. So since we want C horseshoe C to get the G, to get the tail end of this, which will get us the contradiction, the thing to do seems to be to conduct now a conditional proof. We want C horseshoe C, there's the horseshoe that will be our guide. Let's assume the antecedent of what we want. So in this case, the antecedent would be C, assumption, conditional proof. So we've assumed the antecedent, and we're now after the consequent. The consequent is in fact C. This will sound rather ridiculous, but we've got C and we want C. So the question, ridiculous as it might sound, the question is, how can we take C and turn it into C? Remember, for conditional proof, you need to link 2 separate lines together via a horseshoe when you discharge, and here in our conditional proof, we just have a single line. So again, ridiculous though it might seem, the question is, and this is the key to the problem, and I'm going over it because hint, you might see a situation like this, similar to this on the next test. The question again, how do we turn C into C? So let me just spill the beans here for you and go over a quick little procedure. And I think you'll actually find it to be quite clever. Though on the surface it does, I agree, seem kind of ridiculous. So the procedure is like this. Take line number 5 and do addition. Add on the variable that you want. The variable that you want is the one that you have, so we end up with C or C. Well, line number 6, and this is kind of the clever move really, line number 6 you'll notice is obviously a tautology. So that's our next step. 6 taut, C or C, well that's redundant, that's C. So what we've done here via addition followed directly by tautology is, you'll notice, quite clever, turn C into C. So we're now ready to discharge. Join those 2 lines together via horseshoe. 5 through 7, that's our justification, conditional proof. And I forgot to squeeze that in here. C horseshoe C is the result. If you can make that out, C horseshoe C, justification, 5 through 7, conditional proof. Seal that off. And now, 4 and 8 modus ponens, 4 and 8 modus ponens, and we get our G. And that G we wanted, again, so we can do modus ponens, 2 and 9 MP, and we get everything there in the braces. which is turning out to be quite complex. I'll let you finish off the problem from here. Remember, we're after the k and not k, so it's probably going to be the case that you're going to have to do yet another conditional proof. To get that k and not k, once you complete the modus ponens 2 and 9, you're going to need h horseshoe e horseshoe h. Again, stick to your basic rule. Sounds like a prime candidate for a conditional proof. Assume that h, and the task will be to get the consequent e horseshoe h. So the question that you'll need to think about is, you assume the h, how can you turn that into e horseshoe h so you can discharge, getting the antecedent here to ultimately get the contradiction, so you can discharge your indirect proof. So fair enough, that's a really long, nasty problem for you to work through, but keep in mind, this is the very last problem, yay, in all of chapter number 7.